recording is entitled, "They're Just Words." The purpose of this recording is just to highlight the differences between communicating electronically and communicating one-on-one, be it by phone or face-to-face. Let me just tell you a story that brings this home. A woman was suffering from depression. She had some emotional issues, and she was in a family. She had a husband who loved her. She had 4 children who loved her. She had what anyone else looking from the outside in would say she has it all. She seemed to have a nice home, a nice family, a good job, and yet she was depressed. She was very down on life. And one day, just 3 weeks before Christmas, she left a note for her family and said, "I'm sorry, I just need space." And she left. She did text her husband when he texted her several times, asking if she was okay, respecting her space, but just needing to know that she was okay. And every now and then she would respond with, "I'm okay." He continued to try to pursue her and try to help her, but she wasn't open to help at that time. She only replied with those simple 2 words, "I'm okay," after he would make several attempts. Well, finally, a couple of weeks went by, and he thought, this is not right. I need to do something a little bit more. I need to find out if she really is okay. So he hired a private detective to find where she was and to just see if she was okay. Well, this private detective had all kinds of sources that he can tap into. So he was able to trace where her phone text messages were coming from. And he found where she was located. And she was in a very cheap, low budget kind of motel that was just roach infested and not a nice place. And he reported that to the husband and gave him the address. And just Christmas Eve, him and his family decided that they would go and visit her. And even though he had continued to receive text messages from her saying she was okay, he just needed to go and see her. So it was Christmas Eve, and she was sitting on this very hard, cheap bed, staring down at a very dirty carpet, just looking at this smoke burn that had been in the carpet, and just not thinking about anything in particular, when she heard a knock on the door. And first it was a soft knock, and she ignored it. And it got louder and then louder. And so she decided to go and check it out. She looked out the curtain, and there was her beautiful family, her 4 children and her husband, smiling at her. She flew that door open. She could not open it fast enough. She could not get that chain off the door fast enough. She flew it open. She jumped into the arms of her husband, and then one by one into the arms of her children. And they didn't even need to ask her to come home. She was packing her bags already as she gave them those hugs. And so they went home. They had Christmas together. They had a beautiful Christmas together. 2 weeks later, all the Christmas decorations are put away, the tree's put away, the children are back in school. And her husband said, "Tell me, what made you decide to come home that day?" And she said, "Up until then, they were just words. But when I saw your faces, I knew you cared, and I knew that you were the love of my life that I needed to get back into my life." So why do I tell you this story? We use text messaging. We use private messages on Facebook. We use email. We use so many different communication means that we have accessible at this time that we fail to use the personal touch. And so when you contact your customers, and when you're following up with new potential customers, remember, there's nothing like the face-to-face. There's nothing like a phone call. So yes, those text messages are great for just keeping in touch and sending them some little information every now and then. An email is great for that as well. When you see something of interest to a customer, to send that, or when you want to highlight a particular product, you can do an email campaign. You can do your Facebook page posts. All of those things are wonderful, but you're going to have the greatest results in collecting orders when you actually make that personal touch, when you actually take that step of phoning them, showing up at their doorstep with a catalog, showing up at the doorstep on occasion with just a little no reason gift. It doesn't need to be anything big. It's just building relationship. It's doing that added little touch. So I trust that this will be of help to you, and that you will see the value of spending more time talking with your customers on a more personal level. Have a wonderful Regal day.